Hello. Today we visit r/AskReddit to see what secret are you taking to the grave. Make sure to comment your favorite pizza type. With that, sit back and enjoy. Me and my girlfriend were playing Monopoly and she was so concentrated on the game, on the dice, on her properties. She was just so engrossed in the board, that I was constantly taking money out of the bank and keeping it. I feel terrible about it because she was just so adorable trying to play the game and concentrate on trying to win. I absolutely annihilated her because I had so much money. She wasn't a sore loser about it. When we were done playing and it was obvious I had won, she just kind of sighed and we watched a movie. The whole time I couldn't stop thinking about how absolutely adorable she looked while trying to concentrate and play. The way she looked at the money she had, and the properties she bought, like she was so proud of them. And I took advantage of that and stole money to win. I learned that from now on winning doesn't matter. I need to focus on having fun with her. But I will take this to the grave because if she ever finds out, she'll be talking shit like nobody's business. My parents took me to get my hearing checked when I was 12 because I wasn't responding when they called my name. I pretended not to hear some of the beeps in the hearing aid test room. As a result, I wore a hearing aid for 2 years when I was 14 years old. I don't know why I did that. My freshman year of college, I was really hungover one morning and I was back at my parents' house for the rest of the weekend. I was wearing loose-fitting athletic shorts with no underwear, and kind of rocking back and forth in front of the TV to feel that satisfying slap. Any dude knows what I'm talking about. Well, I went to fart, but instead a stream of diarrhea squirted out just at the right moment and completely missed my shorts but got all over the carpet. I went to the bathroom to grab some TP, and by the time I got back to the living room, my dad was on his hands and knees cleaning it up and yelling at my dog. In grade 10, my dad made a deal with me. If I got an average of 88%, he'd buy me a new laptop. Well, the marks came in and I only got something like an 84–85% average. Well, duck that, I want my laptop. So I went online to the regional school board's website and downloaded a PDF template of the report card. I don't know why they would have this available. Used a PDF editor to fill in the blanks and voila, got a brand new laptop. No regrets. P.S. After I did this, I started selling customized fake report cards for $50 each. I once took a week-long trip to London. My mother asked me to get her a small rock from there, because neither of us have ever been out of the country. So, I spend the whole trip looking for this rock, and finally find the perfect one. Fantastic, she'll love it when I get back. So I get home, I'm taking inventory of all of my souvenirs, and the rock is gone. I immediately think back to where I last saw it. It was on the bedside table in the hotel in London. Shit. So I quickly run outside and find a decent rock. I clean it off. We live in Georgia. Freaking red clay is noticeable AF, and wrap it nicely. I eventually gave it to her with the story, I got it from a castle. It'd break her heart to know that I got it from our backyard. My dad was a biker. He died in a motorcycle accident. He had this huge old garage barn that he spent hours in. I was cleaning it out with my sister and we found a locked briefcase buried in a cupboard. We popped the lock and it was full of women's clothing. Stockings, lingerie, things like that. And definitely not my mom's size. I was pissed. He had been cheating on her. Then I got into his AOL accounts. My mom can't work a computer any better than she could work a spaceship, so I had to go in to shut his accounts down. There I found all of these screen names that he had made over the years. Every one of them had to do with stockings and panties. That's when I realized that the clothing in the briefcase wasn't a woman's. It was his. I found tons of gay porn on his computer as well. My sister and I swore never to tell and we got rid of all of the evidence. My mom is extremely conservative and even though I don't agree with her point of view, I know it would kill her to find out. That briefcase is sitting in the dump now. I threw rocks at the school with one of my best mates and some other student tattled on us. Basically we both got the paddle. Basically they smack your bum and they sent a letter home to my dad. My dad received the letter and I lied to him and said I never threw the rocks. My dad, bless his heart, believed me and took it to our school principal and convinced him that I wouldn't lie about such things. Since the principal wanted to rectify it for my dad's sake, he offered me a free voucher for an ice cream as an apology. It's 15 years down the track now, and I still feel really bad for it. I feel like if I told my dad now it would break his heart. In my younger years I had a neighbor that constantly left a mess in the yard making it look like a junkyard, and they let the kids just run around ducking up the entire neighborhood. I tried to sort it out civilly with them by asking them to stop doing things that pissed off everyone, but the only response I got was that I was racist and they would target me and say I touched their kids if I ever talked to them again. They were great assholes, so I decided to respond in kind and made an anonymous tip to the cops that they were selling drugs. I did this for maybe 4 months, asking my buddies to make similar tips every now and then. Well, one day I come home from school, the whole neighborhood is outside on the street and the asshole's house had cop cars and a van outside. Turns out the tips worked and the cops finally checked it out. But then I see the mother and father getting led out in cuffs. Turns out when the cops showed up it was just 2 officers, but when they went to the door to talk to them the father took off out the back door. Long story short, that made the cops chase him down, drag him back, search the house and end up finding a ducton of pills, coke, and weed stashed all over the house. Since they had kids the hammer came down on the hard for that, and in the end they were both arrested for dealing and the kids were taken away. Not sure if it was the right thing, and I will never let anyone know, but at least after that they weren't ducking up the neighborhood anymore. My sister and I were on holiday together recently and very drunk one night when we got back from the bar. Naturally we started drinking more because we were on holiday. She has the ice cube tray in her hand, opens the window simultaneously and loses her focus and drops the tray 5 floors to the street, hitting a big guy square in the dome. He looks up and started screaming and shouting in Italian. I live in Rome, so I understood he was calling us some bad names. We just closed the window and continued drinking while we could hear this man shouting he was going to come up there and rip our heads off. Please never find me Mr. Scary Italian Man. Thought this was going somewhere else. Solid save there, dude. In 5th grade I cheated on an exam. My buddy and I were the only 2 people in the grade who got this particular question correct, but I copied him. The worst part was he was considered dumb, while I was at the top of the class, so the teacher was convinced that he copied me and he ended up getting suspended. Long story short, I was too pussy to admit that I was the one who cheated, as my parents would have murdered me if I failed the test and even worse if I got suspended. Yeah, no, that's the ducked up part. The teachers have no evidence of him cheating as there isn't any. They just base it off of shit like this and that's ducked up. I was a math tutor for years, and I had one family where 2 kids were accused of cheating on the first tests they had after they started working with me because their grades improved. One told the teacher to give him another test right then and he'd do it and he'd prove he knew how to do it, and the other told her teacher, "It's because I have a tutor who actually teaches me now." Man, I was proud. When I was a teenager, I was playing in a duo with a saxophonist. I played guitar on a cruise ship. The gig paid $200 each, and they gave me a check that I could cash and distribute to the saxophonist, who is also a really good friend. For a few weeks after the gig, I forgot about giving him the money, and he totally forgot as well. One day, I noticed the money in an envelope in my desk, and wondered how long it would take him to remember and ask me about it. He never did. I still have the money. He's still my friend, and I've never done anything like that since, but I can't bring it up now, and probably won't. It was the actions of a greedy, asshole past version of myself that I don't want to drag up at this point. Edit. I just want to add this for clarification. To all the people saying he knows and just doesn't know how to bring it up, he doesn't. He's a very forgetful person, and is also very direct. We're not just casual friends where he'd be afraid that we would stop seeing each other over money. We've known each other since middle school, and are incredibly close. So, I guarantee you that he does not know. He wouldn't be afraid of asking if he did. Also, to the people saying that I'm still a greedy asshole for not giving it to him, I can see where you're coming from. However, the issue is a bit more complicated than that. This friend struggles with depression, paranoia, trust issues, etc. This is the only time I've done something like this. On countless occasions I've comforted him at his worst. To drudge up the past this way might lead him to freak out. He would question if there were any other incidences in his head, he would fixate on it, and I don't want it to lead to depression. Edit 2, duck it. You've convinced me, Reddit. I'm meeting this guy later on today. I'll give him the money then, with an extra 75. I'll update in a few hours. Edit 3. Our plans for a late lunch got delayed until dinner. I'll update tonight at around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Edit 4. Well, That's probably the last time I take advice from Reddit. I'll give you the version that everybody probably hoped to hear, then I'll give you what actually happened. Also, since I got some time to kill, I'll present it blow by blow, instead of a brief summary. Ideal scenario, him and I are at the local pub, having beer and burgers, when I make the confession. I decide to man up and give it to him honestly. He informs me that he had totally forgotten about the money and even the gig, but that he is glad I returned it with a large interest and that he forgave me. He then peels off $50 and bought drinks for everybody in the bar. We exchange a bro hug, and we ride off into the sunset like the best of buddies in our vintage Cadillacs. Actual scenario, him and I were at the local pub, having beer and burgers, when I made the confession. I decided to man up and give it to him honestly. Let's call him Harold, for the sake of the story. Perhaps my first mistake was giving him the money, and my sincere apologies after several too many drinks. We were far away from blackout drunk, but we weren't our normal, everyday selves. The first thing I did was take an envelope with $275 in it out of my jacket pocket and give it to him wordlessly. He stared at me, bemused. "What's this?" "Open it," I said. He opened the envelope and took out the money, mostly in 20s. He looked at me again, grinning, saying, "What did I do to deserve this?" I took a deep breath and told him everything, how I forgot about the money, and wasn't reminded by him, until I discovered it a few months later and never gave it to him. While I was explaining what had happened, his eyes went darker and darker with a sudden influx of emotion, until his previously smiling face looked shocked and angry at the same time. When I finished, he didn't say anything. He turned back to his beer and drank. "Well?" I asked, after almost a minute of silence. "Well, what?" he said. I didn't really know what to say at that point. I managed, "What do you think? About the situation?" I asked a few questions about how he felt, since such subjects should be approached delicately with him. "I don't know what to think," he said. "I'm really sorry about all this, I don't know what I was thinking. If there's something I can do to make it up, just say the word." These types of exchanges went on for another minute, me prying and pleading to get at what he was thinking about and how I could aptly respond, and him giving short, brusque answers while brooding over his beer. Finally something in him snapped. He told me, "It's not about the goddamn money. I don't care about the money. What I do care about is you being so deceitful. That I can't take, because it means that you could have done countless things like this." This was a solitary incident, and like I said, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, I responded, trying to de-escalate the situation. "It didn't work. How the hell am I supposed to know that? Your word? I can't really believe your word anymore. You can trust me, man," I said. "You always could." Emphasis on could, he responded. "That's what hurts, because you were always a person I could trust, and now I don't even know if I can do that. I don't know anything. I'm ducking, confused about this shit." I put my hand on his shoulder and started to try to calm him down by talking about our history together, etc. But as soon as my hand hit his shoulder, he shrugged it off. His voice started to slur at this point. "You know what? Duck you. And your money. I gotta go home." He stood up, shoved the envelope back to me, and walked out. I stood up a few minutes later, and rode off into the sunset, no one by my side, in a used, 2010 Kia Soul. I chalk his violent reaction up to a mixture of booze, his past issues, and the heat of the moment. I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow, and try to discuss this in a less heated manner. And if this is my punishment for believing a bunch of internet strangers knew my friend better than I did, so be it. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching all the way until the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your favorite pizza. Until next time.